The end came suddenly. One day, Mahito was wandering around town. He picked up a collection of poems and returned to the tunnel to an unexpected disturbance. He counted 1, 2, 3 flickering souls. One was a shape he knew well, but it was extremely faint, like the flame of a dying candle flickering in the wind. Mahito strolled into the tunnel as usual. As expected, the old man was there, but he was lying on the ground in an odd position. 2 young men were standing on either side of him looking down. "Whoa, that sucks. Geezer's gonna die." The thin man with long hair didn't sound particularly upset. "I told you I could kill a man," the well-built man with the shaved head had responded almost cheerfully. "Yeah, but that was on the spur of the moment." "Yeah, 'cause even though he was all feeble and stuff, he got bossy and told us to get out. He was dissing us, dude, so I had to kick him." The shaven-head man had the muscular legs of an athlete. To kill an old man with one kick would be as easy for him as crushing an empty can. The men weren't the slightest bit interested in the old man's life or soul. They had done this without reason, without hate, without malice. They had just happened to stroll in. Then, on a whim, they had committed a violent act. In a sudden fit, they had beaten an old man. Perhaps that was one expression of human freedom. Mahito crouched and studied the old man's face. His burned features were swelling from the blunt trauma. But even at this moment, his expression conveyed tranquility. "Are you dying?" Mahito questioned the old man with a whisper. "Yes, I believe so," the old man rasped. He probably didn't have the strength left to make his vocal cords vibrate. The young men were talking loudly so they didn't hear him. Mahito examined the old man's soul. It was slowly approaching the end of its life without hesitation or anger. Mahito was impressed. The old man was free in the truest sense. He had liberated himself from all the chains of the world, and that hadn't changed even on the threshold of death. Mahito was relieved to confirm that with his own eyes. He observed the old man's dying moments the way one might gaze at a flower wilting. However, "Hey, old man," Mahito had a premonition. It was like turning the page of a book to an unexpected development, or realizing what's inside an ornamental box the moment before you open it. Disquiet filled his breast. Instinctive alarm bells warned Mahito to stop watching, and he almost did, but everything continued to race forward to the end. I expected to die alone." The old man's soul wavered. A smile formed on his swollen features. "But there's someone here. To watch an old man give up the ghost." It was like watching a single drop ripple the surface of water, an inconsequential event, yet it was the moment of the old man's death. Here, at the end of the very end, the old man's soul metabolized. "Thank you." And then the old man died with a smile on his lips. Mahito sat motionless for a moment, his eyes wide. He had thought that the old man was different from other human beings. He had thought that the old man was truly free. He had thought that the old man had reached a special state of release from all worldly bonds, a state of spiritual enlightenment. But a bond had claimed him at the moment of death. A solitary death had eluded the old man, and he had clung to another being as he expired. The old man had turned out to be just another human being. He died satisfied, perhaps as was proper for a human being. Mahito said nothing. He felt cold inside, as if wind were blowing through him. He didn't know what word human beings would use to describe this feeling, but his consciousness was like a tangled thread, quivering and then suddenly untangling. All that remained was the feeling of standing in an arid wasteland. "Anyway," said the man with the shaved head, "the cops won't bother with an old man no one knows anything about." Yeah, I suppose not." The long-haired man sounded chipper. "Besides, the old bastard's the one who started it. Got what he deserved, yeah, should've looked us in the eye when he was talking to us. Even worse, he got my pants grimy when I kicked him," said the man with the shaven head. "Aw, don't mind that little thing. You crack me up, you killer. He wasn't no person, though. And you know I like to keep clean crap. Does blood come out? Water ain't enough." "I doubt it," said the long-haired man. "But now that the action's over, I'm hungry. Let's hit the convenience store. Hey, think I could get some good detergent there?" "Like I know. You could look for it after we nab some box lunches." Mahito stood up suddenly, as if he had finished searching for something on a low shelf. He felt weary to the bone. The voices echoing in the tunnel were irresponsible, oblivious to reality, incoherent, and drowning out the murmur of the water. With a languid movement, as if picking up a piece of trash, Mahito approached the shaven-head man. He used his curse technique, idle transfiguration. He struck the man's back. His victim had time to cry out in surprise and pain before he stopped being human. Simply killing him would leave a corpse that would clutter up the space. So Mahito folded him down to a size that would fit in the palm of his hand. He could throw the man away later. And then, with a broad wave of his hand, he folded up the other man too. After that, all was quiet. Mahito picked up the men, who were now the size of chess pieces, and looked down at the old man's body. The old-timer was no more than a meat sack full of bones. The body no longer held a soul for Mahito to alter via idle transfiguration. For a moment, Mahito pondered the not inconsiderable problem of disposing of the body. The only sound in the tunnel was water. All right, y'all. That was section 7 of chapter 3, Allegory in Darkness, Mahito's chapter. I'm in pain. That was rough. That was so hard. You have no idea how many times I had to stop. I had to stop and sob. Anyway, what were those two guys going to the corner store for? Do you know? You remember? Good detergent and box lunches. Now, if you remember back to Yuji's time with Nanami, do you remember the two transfigured humans on the roof? Do you remember their repetitive words? Good detergent. Box lunches. So we just met two humans that Mahito essentially later used to teach Yuji the exact same lesson. Mahito hurt here. What happened to him was not fun. He did not enjoy losing that guy. No matter what kind of attachment that was, it was an attachment. So when we see things like this happening, Gege's not nice, okay? Like, Buddhism and the way that it kind of requires you to refute everything in order to be something is not nice. But once you are that, it is nice. It's hard to explain, but Gojo wouldn't be as good of a teacher if he were less enlightened. Now that is questionable statement of the year, considering Gojo's teaching skills. Anyway, all I mean is the enlightenment comes at a real cost in JJK. And when I say real cost, I don't mean, oh yeah, my parents were dead before the story started. No offense to Naruto, I love you, Naruto, I do. But we never got to go through that with you, dude. I mean, we got to go through Naruto's dealing with, like, the village. Like, Naruto dealt with being an outcast. We got to go through that with him. But Yuji doesn't really give a fuck about being an outcast. Yuji just kind of keeps losing things. And he had nothing to start with. Anyway, my head is racked with grief. None of that made sense. The last section is a paragraph long. So I will see you there.